Spider-Noir is out in full on Amazon Prime, 8 episodes around 40 minutes each. This is, and I still can't believe it actually exists, but this is a live action alternate Spider-Man show, which is also a spin-off from the animated Spider-Verse movies, focusing on the Spider-Noir character that first appeared in those films. He was voiced by Nicolas Cage in the animation, and he is played by Nicolas Cage now in live action. Nick Cage is joined by Lamorne Morris, Lee Jun Lee, Karen Rodriguez, Jack Houston, and Brendan Gleeson. The show is essentially answering a question: what if the person who got the powers of Spider-Man was a private detective in 1930s New York? At the beginning of the show, Ben Reilly is decidedly not a superhero. He stopped being the Spider, as the city knows him in this world, 5 years ago, blaming himself for the death of his girlfriend. Now he tries to make ends meet as a private eye, also drowning his sorrows in a bottle of whiskey, and he gets hired on a case that starts out pretty simply, but quickly turns more and more complicated and convoluted, involving a singer femme fatale, a major crime boss, the mayor of New York City, and a couple of World War I veterans who appear to also possess various powers. So this was shockingly delightful. I mean, again, the idea on paper seems incredibly risky, but I think it's been pulled off in a very satisfying way. The thing I enjoyed most about it is probably how, unlike many of the recent Marvel shows, it isn't really a superhero show. It's a classic film noir story that just happens to involve a bunch of superpowered people. There are large stretches of the show where the powers are not really relevant or present, yet it remains compelling in those stretches because of the strengths of its writing and execution. I think the plot and dialogue are both very well done. So are the characters. Pretty much every character in the show is fleshed out and distinct, has depth to them and their own motivations, especially evident in the three supervillains that end up working for Silvermane. It would have been very easy to just make them all uniform, all three of them the stereotypical muscle bad guys. But each of them is really different from one another. Performances are great across the board. Obviously, Nick Cage is the star of the show. I love that he said he considers his performance here to be based 70% on Humphrey Bogart and 30% on Bugs Bunny. It's a hilarious combination, but when you see it, it makes perfect sense. He's excellent at inhabiting this tired, washed up old veteran who can sometimes ham it up and chew the scenery, playing with the different accents and mannerisms when he's pretending to be other people as a detective. And when he's fighting the spider mutation in the final few episodes and having these weird tics and movements, I thought to myself, yep, that's Nick Cage. That's why you cast this guy. I think the show is also very good at marrying the tone of the 1930s detective story with flawed, tragic characters, violence at every corner, people dealing with the Great Depression, with genuinely funny humor that feels natural and organic, again, unlike a lot of the later Marvel stuff with winks at the audience. Finally, I loved the way the show looks. Interestingly, Amazon Prime allows you to watch it in two different versions as long as your device is compatible, either black and white or color. I started the show by watching two first episodes in color and initially thought it was okay, but at some point thought that, okay, the vibrant, oversaturated colors, they might fit as a reference to the early color movies, but they didn't really fit the story for me, and I was interested in what the other version looked around. So I switched to black and white, and I never went back. I think this version is superior in the fact that it becomes evident how many of the scenes were set up and shot with the intention to play with light and shadows, as well as the framing of the characters. I think it looks genuinely fantastic in monotone. One criticism I would have towards the cinematography is how over-reliant it is on modern shooting styles, while at the same time trying to emulate old movies. What I mean is this. The old stuff would regularly or frequently have the camera stationary at, let's say, middle distance, with two or three characters in the frame at the same time having a conversation. Whereas this show, and most modern shows, film conversations typically by having a close-up shot of one character and then the reverse shot. We see Nick Cage when he speaks and then his partner when he speaks back, and we go back and forth. And the problem is, some of the dialogue in Spider-Noir was evidently written and performed with the intention to evoke old Hollywood movies. That is to say, rapid exchanges, very quick back and forths. And in a single shot, that works very, very well because you have the time. Your eye doesn't have to focus on, okay, what am I seeing now? It keeps seeing the still images, so your brain can focus on the dialogue. But when you keep cutting between the characters back and forth, it gets dizzying, and you also get, comparatively little time to focus on any one of those characters or their expressions, because you get 1 or 2 seconds and then you're back with the other guy. I'm sure a lot of people wouldn't notice something like this, but it bugged me, unfortunately. But again, though, it's a relatively small thing in an otherwise very entertaining show. I loved it all the way through, and with the ending being, I mean, it is conclusive, but at the same time, it does leave things open for another season should everybody be interested in coming back. And I personally wouldn't mind coming back to watch more.